Please protect them and keep them from all harm. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Could face the flag, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Agenda item number 2, citizen comments and public announcements. It looks like we do not have any citizen comments. We'll start with our public announcements. Mr. Molina, do you have any?
I have none.
Mr. Chris?
just a couple little events that we have coming up. Well, first off, I'm sure the rest of the council will probably say the same thing. Early voting started. Get out and vote. That's it. Just get out and vote. Get informed, vote. Second one is on Monday, the district attorney's office is going to be having the Love Shouldn't Hurt Domestic Violence Awareness Vigil. That'll take place at Health Park. Last year it was at Veterans. This year it will be at Health Park. Keep your eyes open. We have a couple of different trunk or treats throughout town. Just a safe way for kids to get out and trick or treat. Then the Harvest Bash on the 2nd. That'll be taking place at Anderson Park. Just another great event to bring the family out to. It's a free event, and 6 to 8, I want to say. Look it up. It's easy to find on Facebook, and get out there, find it, take your kids out there, have a great time.
Okay. Mr. Brett?
Yes, a couple months ago, we acknowledged Red Nose Day or Week, and I thought it only be fitting that I reciprocate having to wear a red nose by acknowledging the Alice High School Cafe 400 Real Men Wear Pink celebration. And for the ladies, I have just a couple small gifts. For Cynthia, I would like you to sport the pink sunglasses. And Madam Mayor, I have a Girl Power pin for you
Yay, thank you. Thank you.
in honor of Breast Cancer Month.
Thank you,
Like the
sir.
shirt.
Thank you.
Well,
Anything else, Mr. Brett?
no, it's all.
All right, thank you. Ms. Carrasco? No? Okay, and I would just like to say, you didn't mention the downtown.
No, I don't have any
The
information.
downtown, we are having a little downtown, I believe they're calling it Fall Festival too. It's on the 30th, so that's gonna be downtown as well. Dia de los Muertos theme, they're gonna do their nice little fashion show hosted by Wedding Lace, so that's out there too. Also, for those of you that haven't already seen it, Alice Monopoly, yay! If you haven't seen it or bought it, this is pretty cool. We don't know the history about it just yet. I need to reach out to our friends at Walmart to see how this came about. We don't know how many are out there or what cities, but it really is cool. It pretty much pinpoints Alice to the T. Even Dairy Burger Tea is on there. Really, really a cool thing. So if you haven't bought it, I think you should, because it's just kind of cool. Because we're Monopoly. Other than that, I just want to thank council and our city staff. I feel like I haven't been with y'all in a long time. It just feels really weird. But we just missed one meeting. But we're back, and we have so many awesome things to look forward to. So without further ado, agenda item number 3. Consider and act upon approval of city council minutes for September 25th, 2018, and city council meeting.
I have nothing.
Nothing? Anyone have any? Mr. Burke? No. Okay, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Mayor, I motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Hi.
Opposed, same sign. Motion stands as stated. Thank you. Agenda item number 4, consider and act upon a strength of force ordinance for the Alice Police Department, establishing the classifications within the police department, authorizing the number of employees in each classification, and authorizing a temporary overhire of additional entry-level positions. Mr. Sparza?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor and Council, we had a lieutenant that retired here recently, and what I was wanting to do with that position, and we have to do it by ordinance because we have a strength of force ordinance. This kind of dictates how we handle our civil service and the positions that we have in there. With that lieutenant position, it was overseeing support services, which was dispatch and records clerk and narcotics. Narcotics has since moved over to CID. And we went ahead and have the dispatch have a lead. Dispatch is kind of overseeing that department, and the same with the records. And so what I was wanting to do is change that position, reclassify it to a patrol officer, and also add a second patrol officer to there. And with the cost saving, we'll still have a cost savings. The lieutenant's position was budgeted at a pretty significant amount. It was a long-term employee, so we'll still be under budget having 2 patrol officers.
So we're adding 2 patrol officers.
Yeah.
So if we go to page 12, am I not reading the number correctly? It's showing 45, but it's counting 24?
On the current,
Yeah, you're correct.
no, the new proposed.
yeah, the new ordinance that we have is, yeah, on page 12. Proposed, what is that showing?
It's showing 45, but I count 44,
Both of those counts are off by 1.
right?
Yes.
5, 6. Yeah, we should have a total force of 46.
Oh.
We, yeah, we got this from Nevada. We sent our attorney the old one, and he sent the new one with the changes. And I believe what happened is he didn't add the new police officer that we wanted to add. And so when I called him back, I said, we're not just reclassifying a lieutenant to patrol. I'd like to add a second one. So what I need to do is make sure I have the correct number here of patrol officers based on the old one.
So would that be 22 police officers?
We'd have, officer would still be 21,
Okay.
and so the numbers are right, then the total would be off. Because we do have, on the old one, we do have the 15-3, so,
So that would give us a number of 45. If the last chart is correct, the numbers total up to 45, not 46. I would love another police officer.
45, and then the other one total is 44, correct, is what
Yes.
you're saying?
Correct.
Yeah, then it would be 45. It's one more patrol officer, but it's 2 more because we're reclassifying the lieutenant.
Okay.
So on number, yes, it would be 45 under the total force, and the old one would have been 44.
So John, if we decide on move on this, should we just in the motion say with the changes made to the counts?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Council, go ahead, Mr. Chris.
I was gonna say, this does include the 6 officers that we just hired? Because those were
Yes.
accounted for
They were-
already.
they were already
They were
accounted for.
already in this, okay.
Right.
Very good. Nothing else for me.
Mr. Molina, any questions?
No.
Mr. Burke?
And you're comfortable with the manpower level and the division of labor?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maintain efficiency?
Mhm.
Okay.
Ms. Carrasco? So that would, let me just clarify, the police officer count would be 21, correct?
Yes, police officers can go from 19 to 21.
One chief, no assistant, 2 lieutenants, 15 sergeants, 6 corporal, and 21 officers. Yes? If council doesn't have any other questions, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Mayor, I make a motion to adopt a strength of force ordinance for the Alice Police Department, establishing the classification within the police department, authorizing the number of employees in each classification, and authorizing a temporary overhire of additional entry-level positions with the denoted changes, aforementioned changes, aforementioned changes.
Take a second. Okay, all in favor?
All right.
Opposed, same sign? The motion stands as stated. Thank you. Agenda item number 5, consider and act upon adopting a resolution authorizing the city manager to negotiate and enter into a lease agreement for a portion of real property, more particularly known as the Alice Armory Building, 1207 North Cameron, being 5 acres of land out of Block 57, Alice Farm Block subdivision of the City of Alice, County of Jemals, Texas, authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute all documents relating thereto.
Mayor, what you have before you is a draft lease agreement, and it's based off the previous interlocal agreement, I believe, John, that we had with Del Mar. They vacated the premises, and if you remember, meeting 2 meetings ago, y'all authorized the sealed bid for the lease of this property, and we had one bidder come in, BT Church. I think, yeah, they're here today. And you were here when those were opened, correct? Yeah. She happened to be here that day, so we opened the bids here, or the bid here. We're recommending moving forward with the lease to BT Church. The amount is $5,985.30. Divided, there's air-conditioned space and non-air-conditioned space, so it's divided out. What we're looking for is just a motion to authorize the city manager, along with the city attorney, to negotiate the terms within the sealed bid parameters. So there are some things that we may be wanting to negotiate as, let's say, the premises liability insurance and things of that sort, but still stay within the parameters of the amount that they bid.
With adjustment to the dates, correct, or is
Yes.
that?
Yeah, this is
Just
like the first draft we put together. There's later ones after this, but yes,
Okay.
you're correct.
Council, any questions, Mr. Molina?
No questions.
Mr. Chris? Mr. Burke?
No.
Ms. Carrasco?
Just those items that we had gone over earlier,
Yeah.
just to make a note
We got 'em. We're done.
So what was that? There's just a couple little legal
of
things.
it. Yeah, there were, I also, the dates, something in reference to the verbiage
And I'll tell you
Yeah,
that,
one second.
and I'll tell you, Ms. Carrasco, is that this was the first draft that I had done, that actually there were 2 others. And I think this is the one that got submitted. The dates are incorrect. Mike had come back with the amount of the liability insurance at $1 million. I believe Odie probably inserted the $1 million in here. I changed that paragraph a little bit.
Right.
And I mean, there's just some things here and there, but it's not finalized. It's exemplar for you all so that you know how Mike's going to try to negotiate the lease. And then this is a jumping off point. And actually, I believe that the city attorney in McAllen is affiliated or associated with the church, and he's called me and talked to me about some stuff. So I don't think we'll have too much of a problem fixing it.
Yeah, and one of them is, on the premise of liability, wanted to make sure that we were in line with what TML was going to recommend on the facility. So we had a couple phone calls in for them as well. So it just, the form is kind of what we're looking for, and the base amount, parameters that we have in there.
Go ahead, Mr.
One thing that I'd like to see in here a little bit different is maybe a floor plan with the designated spacing, because on here it says excluding the room, excluding the south with the boat and water. Well, the boat and water are going to be there forever. You know what I mean? So let's go ahead and get a floor plan drawn up and highlight the actual areas that apply. No offense in any way, but it's better if we just cover all of our bases. And I think the room with the boat and water doesn't really hold legal binding. So if we would, that'd be great, please.
Right. And it's carryover from the
Yeah,
the Del Mar one.
I figured.
And with the previous, I know there was a little misunderstanding with maintenance, but I did see in here that they are responsible for maintenance. Because that was, with our constraints on city employees, I wouldn't want that to be blurred, but that they're responsible for maintenance on the property. BT, what is BT stand for?
Baptist Temple.
Okay. I was trying to. Thank you. All right, council, if there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Mayor, I make a motion adopting a resolution authorizing the city manager to negotiate and enter into a lease agreement for a portion of real property, more particularly known as the city, the Alice Armory Building, 1207 North Cameron, being 5 acres of land, blocks 57, Alice Farm Block Subdivision, the city of Alice, County of Jim Wells, Texas. Authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute all documents related.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed, same sign. Motion stands as stated.
Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 6, consideration and possible approval of a development agreement between the City of Alice, acting through its city manager, and the Guzman Family Trust, the developer of the San Diego Creek Estates, tax increment reinvestment zone number 2, City of Alice.
Mayor, had conversations with Mr. Guzman, the developer, and we're both in favor of asking for this to be tabled. There's some things that we're still not clear on, and we're working through these items and deciding whether it'll be brought at a later time. But at this time, we're asking that the agenda item number 6 be tabled.
Council has no objections?
Motion's tabled.
All in favor?
All right.
Opposed, same sign. Motion, agenda item number 6 is tabled. Number 7, agenda item number 7, consider and act upon a resolution of the City Council of the City of Alice, Texas, authorizing budget allocation of hotel occupancy tax funds from the Hotel Occupancy Tax Reserve for permissible uses to the Alice Memorial Post 8621 for a second annual 10-mile Veterans Run to be held on November 10th, 2018, and 2018 Veterans Ball in accordance with City Ordinance number 2058.
Mayor, on this item, I'd like to recommend no action on it. This is something we can handle administratively. We had it on here, but we are operating under the standards that we've been using all this time, so I'll handle this from an administration level.
One thing, if you don't mind, I'd like to make a point on this, is I noticed here that they applied for $1,500 at the chamber and the excess beyond. When we start planning our new process, we need to set those boundaries real steady, because are they applying for the $1,800 and then do we give anything excess and so forth and so on? So just keep that in mind, please.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Do you have the date on the ball? Did they submit a date?
I saw it. It's actually on there.
November 10th?
10th of that,
Is it November? All right, we don't need anything on this one. Just- Number 8, discuss, consider, and authorize, A, submittal of a FEMA Hazard Mitigation Assistance Grant Program application for the purchase of 3 generators, and B, committing the required 25% match, and authorize C, the city manager and/or mayor to execute a grant contract, and all related documents and funds are awarded.
Fire Chief Patrick is going to present this item, Mayor.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This particular agenda item is what we're asking for is permission to apply for a grant for generators for the 3 locations. In your packet, you should have a map of the locations. And this is kind of a work in progress, so we're not 100% sure that we're going to apply for all 3 applications. It's going to depend on the cost of the total cost of the projects, because obviously we can't, there's a 25% match, so we have to make sure that we can stay within budget and within constraints of our funding. So we're asking for all 3 locations. We're still waiting on solid numbers from the engineering group that we were able to acquire through the process that you guys approved. Once they give us exact numbers on how much it's going to cost, we're going to meet with the city manager and the team whether or not we can move forward with the funding or scale back that funding. And our total amount that we're asking for, I'm going to have to refer that over to the city manager, but
Yeah, we're waiting on the engineering firm to come up with a dollar amount. But, Victor, we had a meeting today. We were talking about what our thought process was on the cost of the generators, and we were thinking that the generator, the cost that we were talking about today per generator So-
Over 100,000.
Per generator, right?
Per generator.
Yeah. So we were thinking that we would look at a $300,000 or $400,000 maximum that we would ask for. But we could scale it back if we needed to for the 25% budgetary constraints. But we wanted to go ahead and just put a cap on that right now,
Right, I mean,
and not leave it
open-ended,
unlimited.
yeah. So that's kind of where we're at. Again, we're waiting on engineering work to be done. They'll give us exact numbers on sizes and what it's gonna take to get the generators going. And these are turnkey projects that we're looking for. Some of the match can be done through local match or local share. What we can do is something like, for instance, a pad that needs to be poured to put the generator on can be done with city services, and that can count towards our match as well. So there's a couple different ways we can acquire that match. And then we do have some money in the budget already allotted for some federal grants that we can possibly dip into as well for the match.
So what we'd be asking for is authorization to apply for, a maximum of $400,000. That would still give us a pretty big match on that at 25%. However, we would be able to still scale it back. That doesn't mean we're going to, ask for all of it at that time.
I just some food for thought. The courthouse just recently received a grant for the same project, and they're paid $175,000, give or take a couple thousand for their generator. That's going to power the entire courthouse. So that'll give you an idea of what it's going to take for, like, City Hall is one of our locations that we're looking at. So that's give you an idea of what it costs just for City Halls.
Does the city currently have any spread out amongst the generators that power stuff during emergency situations?
Yes, we've got a long list of generators. Our water towers, our water plant, one of our fire stations has one. Our training center, which is also our EOC, has one as well that was obtained through a grant. We've got
Well, I was just really kind of saying, to reassure people that say, hey, just because we're getting a couple doesn't mean we don't have any. There's
No,
something
we've
out
got-
there already.
We do have some, and
Yeah,
and-
that's
yeah.
basically what it.
And we have a list of other locations that need them as well, but we had to kind of prioritize and scale them back a little bit. We obviously couldn't just get generators for every facility, but we do have needs, and maybe eventually we will.
Right. For emergency purposes, we have generators that are working, and
Right.
this is something that go above and beyond for people to function a little bit more effectively if the need arises. So, for example, we're looking at something at City Hall. If we do need this to be a command center, we have one at the training center, correct?
Correct.
So that's our command center for emergencies. But if we wanted to move it over here with a generator, we could.
And we're thinking long-term outages for City Hall, more continuity of government to make sure that we can continue to, if we ever were faced with a disaster, if we needed to recover, it's going to be a long process, and we're going to need our offices, and we're going to need our equipment working at City Hall, our servers and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, a logistics question, or for technically speaking, will it actually, the one for City Hall, actually be located at City Hall? And I only ask because, off-site, on-site, if it actually reaches, because the picture doesn't have it actually at City Hall. So it made me think, do y'all actually put it off-site, or will it actually be on-site?
That's going to be up to the engineering, but we're really counting on engineering to, we want them to design it. We don't want to come up with it ourselves, because we want guys that specialize in this
Okay.
to design it. So it's really going to be an engineering question on the company that, and we've acquired LMV engineering to do this through the bid process, and we had to follow a real strict bidding process that you guys were a part of a couple weeks ago.
Very good.
Mr. Molina, any questions?
None.
Mr. Burke?
No.
Ms. Carrasco? I'll entertain a motion at this time, council.
Mayor, I'll move for authorization of the submittal of a FEMA Hazard Mitigation Assistance Grant Program application for the purchase of 3 generators, committing the required 25% match, and authorize city manager and mayor to execute a grant contract with all related documents if funds are awarded.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion stands as stated. Thank you, Mr. Burke. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. I have the next agenda.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Consider and act upon approval of a resolution of the City of Alice, Texas, adopting the FEMA-approved City of Alice and Jemals County, Texas multi-hazard mitigation plan. Yay.
So this particular item is a and the mayor's pretty familiar with this one because she was the president, many of the meetings that we did when we were developing this plan. Back in 2016, we were awarded a grant to hire a company to help us develop a multi-hazard plan. Multi-hazard plans are required by the government, by the state, in order to qualify or make us eligible to apply for grants. And so we were awarded the grant to hire GrantWorks to help us develop the plan, and it was a pretty lengthy process. When I came in back in December, we were still working through the process, and we started it in 2016. So we were able to get it completed April, and then by May we were able to submit it up to FEMA. It had this plan had to go through you guys, and then it had to go through TDEM, or Texas Division of Emergency Management. They had to do their reviews, approve it, and then they forwarded it on up to FEMA to do their reviews and either approve or disapprove it. And we finally received approval for that. I'm not sure, do they have their letters in their packet of the approval?
It's an attachment.
It's an attachment. Okay, so there should be a letter in your packets that's from FEMA, from TDEM, approving our plan as submitted. So what the plan covers there's 16 different hazards that we had to identify and determine whether or not they were a hazard to us and at what level or what how high of a hazard it was for our community. And then we had to develop plans and actions that we would use to mitigate those plans. And what this does is also federal, for instance, the generator grant that you guys just approved, this is a part of that. Without this approval, we automatically disqualified from that grant. So we have to have this plan adopted and approved in order to qualify for those grants.
Long and short is you guys approved submitting it. Now we're coming back and the resolution is, it kind of has a stamp now. It's official. FEMA says, yes, this is good. Now we need a resolution saying you approve the stamped official FEMA approved plan and we'll use it for all these grants we're working.
I just have to say thank you too, because that was something that was a lot of work that we were a little late getting it, and I will say it, and that's kind of the urgency right now, because we are a little behind on submitting, which sets us behind on grant process and stuff like that. So it really is a pretty pressing issue. And I thank you for your hard work in getting it done. Thank you, Chief. Council, any questions, Mr. Haskell? Mr. Burke?
No.
Mr. Chris? Mr. Hollihan? I'll entertain a motion at this
I'll
time.
move for approval, motion for the approval of resolution for the City of Alice adopting the FEMA-approved City of Alice and Jimos County, Texas multi-hazard mitigation plan.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion stands as stated. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Mayor, for being able to.
My pleasure. Agenda item 10. Chief again. Authorization to submit a 2018 Assistance to Firefighters Grant application. Authorization committing the required 10% match. Authorization for the city manager and/or mayor to execute a grant contract and all related documents if funds are awarded.
So last year you guys were gracious enough to authorize us to apply for a FEMA grant to request air packs. Unfortunately, we didn't get that grant. There were some factors that disqualified us from that grant. One of those being, so the air packs are they're certified by a certain standard developed by the National Fire Protection Association. And the grant, you have to be 10 cycles away from, or expired on that grant. Not expired, but deep into those revisions of that standard. And we weren't there yet. This year we're there. So we meet all those qualifications this year, so we're asking to be able to reapply for that grant. The amount hasn't changed. It's still 260. 62. I don't want to give you a wrong number.
260,000.
450.
So that's the same amount of money that we were applying for last year. We're sticking with the same. We still have that need for those air packs. To date, we still haven't been able to replace any. They're really expensive. That's just for 29 packs. So it's
How many, Patrick?
29.
29.
So these air packs are the lifeline to these firefighters when they go into any type of what we call IDLH environment, being to be dangerous to life and health. This is what helps keep them able to do their job. So they're very, very important, and we're hoping to be able to get this. We feel we have a good chance this year because of the situation there with those NFPA cycles that we're currently under.
Council, any questions? Ms. Carrasco? Mr. Burke?
No.
Mr. Chris?
Yeah, I do actually, real quick. You said it was 26, oh, no, I'm sorry. 262, 450, and a 10% match is 23,859. That math isn't quite there.
On the app, do you have the?
On the funding and fiscal impact?
So the memo sheets that were created.
I didn't see it.
So I have the-
We don't have the application, so
I have the
I'm seeing a
application here from-
different.
So it kind of spits out the numbers to you. You enter in what you're applying for, and then it spits out the numbers back to you.
Oh, okay, so it's not quite 10%, and by this case, it's more like just under 9 or just over 9.
Right, yes, the application has 23,859, is that the number you have?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know how that,
Okay, well, I just want to make sure that we're not putting the wrong numbers in there, and then we end up missing them.
no, we put the total cost, and then it tells us what the match is.
Good. Okay, so it's not quite 10%, but that's fine. That's even better.
Less than
Saves about 3
10%.
grand. We'll take it. As long as we still can apply for it, it's good to go. That's all I had.
And since you brought up the match, for this particular grant, the way the approval process works, it won't be until not this funding, not this budget, but the next budget, when we are told whether or not it's approved or disapproved. So we'll have time to, if we are approved, we'll have time to put it in next year's budget for the match. So just in case you guys are wondering about the match.
Good. Mr. Smith, any other questions?
No, that's it.
Mr. Molina?
No questions.
All right, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Mayor, I'll move for adoption or approval of submission for the 2018 Assistance to Firefighters Grant, AFG application authorizing committing the required 10% match, authorization for city manager and mayor to execute a grant contract and all related documents if funds are awarded.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion stands as stated. Thank you and good luck, Chief.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you. Agenda item number 11, discuss, consider, and act upon evaluation committee's recommendations regarding hiring grant works pursuant to RFP number 2018-09-21 to prepare a Texas Community Development Block Grant application and to provide subsequent administrative services if grant funds are awarded.
Mayor, we're going to have Taylor Vickers from our finance department present this.
I was part of the evaluation committee with Councilmember Crisp and Carrasco. And on August 14th, y'all had approved for us to use the TDA, Texas Department of Agriculture's streamlined procurement process to solicit proposals from a pool of firms that were already pre-qualified for the Texas CDBG applications. And the committee had met on September 4th and 8 firms were selected to submit RFPs for. They were distributed on September 7th, and proposals were due on September 21st. Only one proposal was received from GrantWorks. On October 2nd, we met to discuss the evaluation proposal, and below you'll see is the itemized items from GrantWorks for their costs. Their overall would be $33,000 or 11% of the grant that we received, which the maximum is $300,000. So the max that we will pay GrantWorks is $33,000. If we receive a grant, the award that's less than $300,000, then we'll be paying only 11% of what was awarded. These are for the possible projects for CDBG funding that for our wastewater infrastructure improvements and then water line replacement. The grant application is due February 7th for the CDBG 2019-2020. The evaluations committee's recommendations is for y'all to authorize city manager to enter into a contract with GrantWorks to prepare a CDBG application and to provide subsequent administrative services if grant funds are awarded. Mr. Molina, any questions?
No.
Mr. Chris?
No.
Mr. Burke?
No.
Ms. Carrasco? I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Mayor, I make a motion to authorize, wait, am I the wrong one? To act upon the evaluation committee's recommendation regarding hiring grant works pursuant to RFP number 2018-0921 to prepare a Texas Community Development Grant application and provide subsequent administrative services if the grants are awarded.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion stands as stated. Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you, ma'am.
Agenda item number 12, consider and act upon authorizing staff to issue a notice to bidders for sealed bids for sale of city-owned property described as the middle third of lots 7, 8, and 9, farm block 135C, City of Alice, Jemez County, Texas.
Mayor Joe Salisbury from Engineering Department will present this agenda item.
Yes, for this agenda item, we're looking for authorization to issue a notice for sealed bids for the sale of city-owned property. The property is located in the 300 block of South Brennan's. This property is in the middle of 1/3 of lot 7, 8, and 9, farm block 135C, City of Alice, Jemez County. There are no plans for use, and it remains vacant. The lot itself is 150 feet by 50 feet. Its current market value is shown at $1,750. The advertising is going by our local government code, section 272001. The notice must be published in 2 separate dates. And the sale or exchange cannot be made until after the 14th day, after the date of the second publication. We're looking at publication dates of October the 28th and November the 4th. The property is in a floodplain. It's showing on the FEMA maps that it is in the floodplain.
We don't have any utilities under there. Our city attorney has reviewed this and says that we follow the process. We're able to sell the property.
Council, any questions? Mr. Molina?
It's just an abandoned lot?
Yes. Yes. It's on South Reynolds. It's just north of Lodges Creek.
That's all.
Okay, Mr. Price?
This is actually, you said it's actually basically set across 3 current lots. Because I'm having a hard time reading the map.
It was a
Yeah,
larger
because-
lot,
And
and
it's divided.
Yeah, it's across the backside
That's why
of
it
them.
says middle.
Yeah,
There's really no frontage to each one.
yeah, so it's only kind of holds value to
There
That's
is-
the
there-
the landowners in front.
Mhm.
That's it, because the map doesn't quite line up with if you look here at this map, that you sent the actual air map, and then a sky map, and then if you look at the actual graphed out map, they're not the same. Yeah, because there's a cul-de-sac in the middle of the other one, and it's not on the here, so it's hard to actually pinpoint what I'm looking
But
at.
this is one where Lattice Creek is, that's no, it's not.
It's not the same,
Yeah, so this person would be the one.
yeah. So, okay. I think we should try to move it regardless of
Yeah.
whether I can read the map or not. I think we need to try to get out from under it. So,
Mr. Burke, any questions? Ms. Carrasco, any questions?
One question I had was in reference to what the deed read, that city attorney said we were good with this because it was never designated a part of.
And so you all can understand, Ms. Carrasco had a concern because when it was originally deeded to the city, I believe back in 1969, that it said that it would be deeded to the city and could be used for the purposes of a park or for flood control. And it was never used for, or as long as we wished to use it for those purposes, we could. It was never used for those purposes, it was never dedicated as a park, so it wouldn't necessarily be park property. The deed to have it be restricted for park property, there would have been a restriction or a right of reversion saying it has to be used for a park or for this, or you all don't get it. And so it is not park property, we can't proceed with the sale as Mr. Salisbury has described. Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions, Scott? Okay, thank you. If there are no further questions, I'll entertain a motion at this time, council.
Mayor, make a motion authorizing staff to publish, issue a notice to bidders for sealed bids for the sale of city-owned property described as middle 1/3 of lots 7, 8, and 9, Farm Block 135C, City of Alice, Jim Wells County, Texas.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion stands as stated. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Salisbury. Agenda item number 13, here status report on September 2018 month-ending financial statements and summary of funds.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The financials I'm going to present are through the end of the fiscal period, September 30, 2018. As you know, we already passed the budget and we started the new fiscal period, but this will be through the end of September 30th. We'll start with general fund revenues, which ended September 30th at $12,182,141, which is about a little over 98% of our total revenues. This, of course, is lacking 1 month of your sales tax for the month of September, so once we receive that one, we'll easily exceed the targeted budget amount. We'll start with the property tax. The amount that you see on the property tax also is the revised budget amount. So that's not from the original, it's the revised amount. And we revised that amount to be $2,760,179. And our year-to-date actual for that was $2,810,750. So we actually exceeded the budget on the property tax, so that was a good thing. On the following slide. Thank you. On Exhibit B, you'll see the property tax. This is our total levy for 2016, 17, and 18. And of course, this includes your M&O and INS. In 2018, we're at $4,019,407, which is a little bit less than the $4,283,000 from 2017. It's about $264,000 less. Although your total assessed value in 2017 was quite a bit higher than 2018. So your total assessed value in 2017 was almost 869 million is what it was, whereas 2018 was 805,483, so it was less. Your sales tax through the end of September on your revised budget was $6,082,983, and our year-to-date actual was $5,853,742. That is through August. Your actual is through August, where your budget is through September. On Exhibit C, okay, you'll actually see where your actual through August for your revised budget was $5,576,068, and your actual collected through August was $5,853,742.
Roland, if you don't mind, can we make a point of just stating that when the budget was actually set for last year, even though we revised it to the 110, we had actually set the value of every month being at 420, so that's almost $100,000 a month. So we as a city are doing better. Even though it doesn't really show it there, we need to remember that we bounced that number up from last year's
Yeah,
budget.
and that's a good point. I was gonna make a, mention that in the last slide.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's okay. That's
Sorry.
okay. But.
We gotta get the good news out there when we can.
That is true. That is true. It's from 420,000 as opposed to 506,915, what it was revised to.
Very good.
And then Exhibit D, you'll see where actual collected through 2018 was 5,853,742, and actual collected through 17 at the same time period was 4,877,428. So that's a $976,314,000 increase. So that's in line to what we've been saying all along, where we're about 20%. Back to you. Occupational and mixed beverage, we were at 40,700, and year-to-date actual was 33,017. Since then, we've collected the one for September, which was $8,200, so we're going to exceed that also. And your occupational and your franchise and licenses and permits are quarterly. So the one for your franchise licenses and permits was 1,006,619, and our actual was 841,712. We have not received that one for the quarter ending September 30th, but if it's in line with what we've collected in the past, then same thing, we should either meet or exceed that budget amount. That one averages about 155, 260,000, somewhere around there. And our governmental funds exceeded our budget amount. Charges for services also exceeded it by a little bit. Fines and forfeitures came in at 385,000 as opposed to 317, so that one exceeded as well. Miscellaneous revenues was 183,652 as opposed to 112,000 budget. So that one was over as well. And our interfund transfers was at the exact same amount. So our general fund revenues, now we'll go to general fund expenses. And that one was at $12,091,264 through September. And that's at 97, a little over 97.5%. So that's actually a good thing that with our expenses, we were under the budget amount. Some of the larger ones are your general service. That one exceeded a little bit. That was for some fuel purchase that we did at the end of the year. That hasn't been expensed, so that was a little bit over. All the other major ones, your finance administration was under about 96%. Your fire department, which is one of your larger departments, was 97%, so that's good. Your police department was at 99%, so it's a little bit under the budget. Street maintenance, 95%. Parks and playgrounds was at 95%. And the library was a little bit over. That was 102%, but that was some utility costs that had gone up. Okay, so on the all major funds, I did this a little bit different because it's the end of the year, so I wanted to kind of portray a picture of where we started and where we ended up. So you have three columns for each one. The first one was the original budget amount, which is the one in blue. The green one is what we revised it to. And then the last one is your actual revenue, which is in red. So for the general fund, we started at 11,650,000, almost 1,000. We revised it to 12,382,000, and that's due to the sales tax that Mr. Chris was mentioning, where we went up almost 700. It was 731,000 for that exact time period, and they're revised. And once we collect the new one for the month of September, then we should be a lot higher than that. We're averaging about 532,000 in the sales tax per month, and that has we're short 199, so we're easily gonna exceed it. And we'll probably be over on that one. Solid waste was pretty much in line from the original budget, and it stayed in line throughout the whole thing, and we ended up in positive 72,265. Utility funds show, that one is where our original budget was at 8,083,000. We went down to 7,559,000, and we ended up a little bit short on that one, 42,807. Airport fund, we started at 48,000, almost 49,000. We revised it to 21,484, and we actually ended up at $3,204 higher than the revised budget. Golf course fund was pretty much in line from the original budget, and we're about 14,843 under on that one. Hotel occupancy tax fund, we increased that one from 192 to 296. That was a result of some of the council action for that we had projects of the baseball field, softball field, and the kickball fields and so forth. That was added in there. We haven't expensed a lot of those projects yet. So that one shows revenues under 61,274. And the multi-use complex, surprisingly, the original budget was 280 and we revised it to 293, and we actually came in at 311,000. So we're actually in the positive 17,398. Our expenses for all major funds, general fund, we started at 11,650,000. We revised it to 12,380,000, and we ended up at 12,091,000. So we're at actually 289,421 under. Solid waste was about 120,661 under on the expenses. Utility fund was 381,093 under from the revised. Airport was 2,287 higher than the revised. The golf course was 1,511 lower than the revised amount. Hotel occupancy tax expenses were 54,992 lower than your actual, than your revised amount. And the multi-use complex was 1,569 less than the revised amount. So if you have any questions,
Very
I'll
good.
be happy to answer.
Council, any questions, Ms. Carrasco? Mr. Burke?
No.
Mr. Chris? Mr. Molina?
I have two quick questions. On Exhibit E, I might have missed it, on the general service.
Yes, sir.
Is there a reason why that's kind of,
Yeah, that's the one we purchased. It was a little bit over 106%, and we purchased some fuel.
okay,
But when we buy it, we don't expense it until it's actually used.
Okay.
So that's the reason that it's in there. And it kind of skewed it.
okay, I didn't do that. And then on the Exhibit F, for the multi-use complex fund, were you talking about revenues? What are you referring to there?
We originally started, our original budget, when we first started, was 280,143. But when we revised it, when we get closer to doing the budget again, we start revising the budget at that point, when July, August, and we'll revise it to what we think is a more realistic amount. So it was, we changed it to 293, or revised it to 293,838, but we actually came in at 311,000.
Right, but like, what are those revenues, I guess is my question.
From your sales and service that are out there.
It includes an intertransfer number.
Yeah,
Well,
does
if you
have
look
the-
at page 8 of 11, it'll show like, even their charges for services went up. We did go up on the interfund transfer. So see, we started out at 280,000, and that breaks out like the charges for services, the miscellaneous, and then the interfund transfers are the transfers from the general fund.
I just think it's kind of misleading because you put down we call it revenue, but it's really just giving them money, right, from another fund,
We do transfer.
right?
Yes,
Okay.
we do
Now,
transfer.
when I saw that, I was like, wait a minute, what happened here? You know, but anyway.
That was in the amount of 116.
116.
Yes.
Was
Yes.
the interfund. Okay.
Okay, that's all I have.
Any other questions? Council? Nope. I'd say good job on the fire department.
Yes.
Good job, chief. Very good. That was, and as a whole,
As a whole.
excellent job. We're there. We're maintaining steady. I'm so proud. Very good. Great job to everybody, city staff, our new city manager. Great job on maintaining that.
I think it was that big time when y'all did that schedule shift,
Yep.
that made a huge difference, so, good job.
Good job.
Thank you.
Very proud.
welcome.
Thank you, Willie.
You're welcome.
Agenda item number 14, hear a presentation from the Alice Police Department regarding statistics for second quarter calls for service, arrest, and citation information within the city of Alice.
Our interim police chief, Jeff Vettis, will be presenting today.
I'm gonna go ahead and pass some additional packets for you all. So you have them. It's the PowerPoint.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the Alice Police Department quarterly stats. These stats are from July 1st, 2018 to September 30th of 2018. First is gonna be the patrol division. The patrol division is consisted of 1 lieutenant, 6 supervisors, 20 officers. The primary duties of the patrol division is to respond to calls for service and be proactive in deterring criminal activity. Other duties consist of accident investigations, traffic enforcement, and responding to medical emergencies. Patrol division is considered the backbone of the police department and are the true definition of first responders, as they are often first on the scene to any situation. The calls for service for July were, for July, August, and September, as you can see the totals there, are 3,569 calls for service. For adult arrests, for July, August, and September, we had 259 arrests. Juvenile detentions, just our juvenile arrests, were also for July, August, and September, we had 34. Citations and tickets, the patrol division, for July, we had 138 citations, 229 warnings. In August, we had 130 citations, 179 warnings. In September, we had 118 citations and 104 warnings, for a total of 898. Those two are combined. On the Criminal Investigation Division, for July 1st, 2018 through September 30th of 2018, the Criminal Investigation Division, which is CID, consists of 1 lieutenant and 4 investigators. The primary duties of the CID officers consist of responding to calls for service, where investigative techniques are needed and go beyond the scope of the patrol division. Other duties range from interviewing victims of crimes, interviewing suspects, drafting affidavits for search and arrest warrants, and executing said warrants. The Criminal Investigation Division works closely with the other divisions within the department, as well as other local, state, and federal agencies. And these are the stats for CID. In July, 176 cases were assigned to CID. 16 cases were closed and referred to the District Attorney's Office. 36 cases were closed and referred to the County Attorney's Office. 7 cases were closed and referred to Municipal Court. 3 cases were closed and referred to Juvenile Probation Office. 6 cases were cleared by exceptionally. 2 cases were closed unfounded. 107 were closed by all leads being exhausted. 9 felony arrests were made, 24 misdemeanor arrests were made within that month. For August, they had 186 cases assigned to CID. 10 cases were referred to district attorney's office, 37 cases were closed and referred to the county attorney's office. 14 cases closed and referred to municipal court. 7 cases closed and referred to juvenile probation office. 3 cases were cleared by exceptionally. 1 case was closed unfounded. 7 cases were still actively being investigated. 1 case was closed as agency assist. 107 were closed by all leads being exhausted. 3 felony arrests were made. 18 misdemeanor arrests were made within that month. In September, there are 176 cases assigned to CID. 13 cases were referred to the district attorney's office. 35 cases closed and referred to the county attorney's office. 23 cases were closed and referred to municipal court. 8 cases were closed and referred to juvenile probation office. 3 cases were cleared exceptionally. 19 cases are still actively being investigated. 1 case was closed as agency assist. 74 were closed by all leads being exhausted. 15 felony arrests were made. 25 misdemeanor arrests were made within that month. The Special Crimes Unit, which is narcotics, July 1st of 2018 through September 30th of 2018. The Special Crimes Unit consists of 1 lieutenant, 2 sergeant investigators, 1 sergeant interdiction officer. The primary duties of the Special Crimes Unit is to deter, interrupt, and dismantle narcotic distribution within the city of Alice and surrounding areas, as they also assist Criminal Investigations Division with the on-call backup duties and respond to investigative calls as needed. The Alice Police Department works with local law enforcement agencies such as Juárez County, Duval County, and Brooks County, along with also assisting DPS and federal agencies when called upon. And on your packet, it explains what they've done. So I'm going to go in and move it forward to the last slide, where it shows the breakdown of what they've done. On the breakdown, it shows here they've closed 22 cases within these 3 months, July, August, and September. The breakdown of the total quarterly stats are as follows. Marijuana was seized 39.2 ounces. Marijuana wax seized was 0.7 grams. Cocaine seized was 1.2 grams. Synthetic marijuana seized is 12.5 ounces. Heroin seized was 25.4 grams. Mushroom seized was 2.1 ounces. Morphine seized was 13 doses. Corosperdol seized, which is a painkiller, that's what that is. There was 90 doses of that. Firearms seized were 2, vehicles seized were 2, currency seized was $1,431. Arrests made were 12, illegal immigrants detained were 2, cases closed were 22. And that's the end of my presentation. So do you have any questions?
Council, any questions? Mr. Molina?
No questions.
Mr. Chris?
I just would like to state that when it comes to the PD, right now we're hitting in that 30% closing range, which is on par with the national average. You know, we don't ever like to see that number is 30%. And when the general public gets out there and they see numbers like that, sometimes they worry. But it's on par. We're not doing anything wrong as a community. We want to thank the police officers for what they do out there and continue to do a good job. I just wanted to make that statement and let the general public know that the job is being done to to a high standard, so thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Burke? Ms. Kowalski? Mr. Chris, where did you get your numbers from? Just say
Just-
30%?
Right off of the, it just, right here from the cases closed too, but
But the national number, where'd you get that information?
There was a report that I read a while back when we had one of these come up before. I want to say it actually was actually a little bit lower than 30%. I want to say it was somewhere around 29 to 31% depending on the region. So I can pull up that report. I have it downloaded. I'd be happy to send it over to you.
I don't like
There's a
that.
report, I want to say it was from 2017, so it's a little bit, it's about a year old. But I remember this one, the first one of these came up, I wanted to know because I asked at the time Chief Ramon basically the same question because we were looking at those numbers and they made me go back and want to look things up, so.
I guess I don't want to be a national average, I want to be above
Yeah,
average.
so do I.
There you go, there you go.
And I just, when I look at numbers like this, I'm just not okay with it. Because if you break it down, 22 cases, that's 7.3 a month, you know, because it's a quarter. Unfortunately, I was born and raised here, and I know we have a lot of drugs in this town. And so for me to say that we can only pick up 2 pounds of marijuana, what? I'm not okay with that.
No.
Because I know that in our schools, they carry 2 pounds a day. And that's what I'm not okay with. And my stance on public safety is not a secret. And I know that, you know, I appreciate you taking this big job, Chief, and it is a big job. And I don't want to be a national average, I want to be above average. Because when I look at these numbers, translating ounces and 39.2 ounces sounds fabulous. But as a woman, I look at pounds,
Yeah.
as most women do. So when I translate it, it's 2 pounds. Well, yeah, we fluctuate 2 pounds overnight. So to me, I'm not okay with that. And I'm not sure how much a baggie is, but I know this exists. You know, unfortunately, I was born and raised here, and I know this. Or synthetic, I want that completely off our streets. All the others, I obviously don't want. But I just feel like we can do better, and I'm hoping with the additional boots on the ground that we can do better. I know that these numbers are a reflection of our traffic stops, and so I would like to see, I mean, this number too, when you look at it, you know, we have 138 citations, 229 warnings, so we're not even doing half citation to warning. In September, we did better. You know, we did 118 citation to 104 warnings. I know that when we stop people more, we're going to find more of this trash. And I just feel like we need to tackle it and tackle it hard. You know, this is not a secret in our community, and it's something that does have to be addressed. And I do want to see these numbers go up because I know more than this exists in one household.
Right.
And so, you know, this just to me is not acceptable for us to be picking up so little from 22 cases. This is all, we can put it in a box. I want to fill a room with this trash. I don't want this on our streets. So to me, this is, I'm very passionate about this, and I'm not okay with such small numbers being seized. If we translate cocaine, it's 0.04232876 ounces of cocaine. Yeah, no. So in synthetic is 0.75. That's killing our kids. That's frying their brains. I know it's out there, and I would like to see these numbers be bigger.
Yes, ma'am, I agree.
I would like to see them bigger, and I've spoke to a few people about my concerns, and apparently they're identified areas, and I know there's laws that protect people, but I'd like to see us be a little more aggressive and pulling this trash in and getting it off our streets.
And I just want to clarify here, Mike, the numbers that I was talking about was the criminal investigation. Of course, we always want to get more drugs off, you know, but you know, in turn, what I was referring to is when somebody has a crime happen to them, the criminal investigation side of it, and letting our citizens know that we're out there working for them, not only to pick up the drugs, which obviously we do need to work harder because we know we have issues. Every city has them, but I'm talking about the criminal investigation side of things. That's where my numbers were coming from. So
Okay, so
we were talking two different departments.
So yeah, because the drug contributes to this other
Oh, yeah,
behavior,
yes,
and we
it
know
does.
that.
Yes,
The
ma'am.
drug contributes to the abuse and to the speeding and to the traffic, and I mean it's a
Robbery,
contribution
right, big
to
time.
all of that. And so I guess that's where my concern's always been. Unfortunately, I know this side of our town, and I'd like to see us be a little more aggressive, and I'm anticipating that we will be in the months to come. Yes, sir, absolutely.
Chief, I'm going to ask you a question, and I understand if you might not have the information, I would accept that. There's another closure figure that I'm interested in. A few years ago, all law enforcement in Jim Wells County was in jeopardy of losing even opportunity for applying for grants and receiving the grants because closure rate at the county through the DA and through the courts was very low. And it was a statewide problem. And I was wondering, where are we at on that? Because I was trying to find figures on that this week, and I couldn't find anything. I was wondering if you might be able to help me look into that a little more.
We can have a meeting with the county attorney's office, or the district attorney's office, and find out, what do we need to
Yeah, I haven't heard any more
address,
about this, and I
because-
just wonder what the status is right now.
Yes, sir.
That is a
I
very
mean,
interesting conversation you'll have with the DA, because I did sit, and that's a huge concern for
Yes,
me too,
ma'am.
because they can do their job and then it goes
Sure.
and it sits.
Absolutely.
And that is a huge concern for me too, out of my hands, but,
Yeah.
I appreciate that we do what we can, but I know we can do more. On these numbers, Chief, does this include interdiction?
Yes.
So this includes interdictions, which is our highways, not so much just our streets. Wow. Okay. We have a lot of work to do.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
taking on a tough job, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item 15, hear a presentation from the Alice Fire Department regarding statistics for quarterly calls for service.
Mayor, Fire Chief Patrick Thomas, will present.
Good afternoon, or good evening again.
Hi.
So I'm going to go over our third quarter statistics, but before I do that, I just want to take an opportunity to thank the rest of the employees and our bosses, our city clerk. Without them and without all the help from every other department, water department, streets, it's almost impossible to get our type of work done too. We do work as a team across the. You're used to seeing police department, fire departments working together, but it's really a bigger team than that, all the way down to the custodial guy that's working in City Hall and some of the other employees in inspections and finance. So I just wanted to take that opportunity to thank them for that. And so I'm going to go over the third quarter statistics, and some of these reports you've seen before from the last 2 quarters, so they're very similar, the numbers. And I'll just kind of go over some of the highlights. I know you guys have a really busy agenda following me. So total number of incidents for this quarter was 164. 12 of those were EMS incidents and 152 of them were fire incidents. The print incident value and losses, I'm going to go into that in a little bit more detail towards the end of the presentation because there was an additional report that was asked the last time I was up here, and I want to kind of clarify that a little bit. So mutual aid, we had 7 times that we gave mutual aid and 2 times that we received mutual aid. So again, mutual aid is when somebody comes to help us or we go to help somebody else in another jurisdiction. And the number of overlapping calls was at 18, which is 10.98%. Our average response times, you can see the numbers there for EMS and fire. And again, I know I explained this last time, but I want to clarify, EMS doesn't mean that we're going with an ambulance or we're driving an ambulance or anything like that. EMS calls typically we're assisting EMS. So there's usually already an ambulance on scene or an ambulance on the way, and we're going to go help them. So there may be like a CPR process or cardiac arrest that we're going to go help them with, or even something as far as helping them lift the patient that's that they don't have enough manpower to do that with. So our EMS turnout or response times were 4 minutes and 30 seconds and 5 minutes and 29 seconds, and it's broken down by station. Then our fire response times were 5 minutes and 55 seconds and 4 minutes and 31 seconds. And the total average for that was 5 minutes and 32 seconds. That's the average time it took us to arrive on scene, so it's just an average. Lights and siren, the average turnout time, this is the amount of time that it took for us to, when we received the call, to get in the truck and actually be on the road responding to the call. And for Station 1, it was 1 minute and 15 seconds for EMS calls, and for fire calls, it was 1 minute and 11 seconds. Station 2, it was 1 minute and 43 seconds, and 1 minute and 7 seconds for fire calls, for an average of 1 minute and 12 seconds. And then the average time we were on scene was 26 minutes and 45 seconds. That's an average of how long it took us to take care of whatever incident it was. I also broke it down by in a pie chart, and it breaks down the different types, and there's going to be 2 different ones in your packet. One of them is for the city, for all the zones, and then there's another one that breaks it down to just what was in the city. And then there's another one that breaks it down to just what was in our county. And when I say county, I mean county, our primary response area in the county. So there's a difference because there's also county for other jurisdictions. It's also in here as well. And I apologize because I didn't give you the map again this time. I expected for you guys to have it again, but next time we do this, I'll include the map that includes the zone so you guys know what I'm talking about, a specific zone. You'll know what area of town that was. So total number again was 164, and this just kind of breaks it down by the major incident types. And then the second page, it will give you a breakdown of how many types of calls and the number for that type of call.
If you don't mind me asking real quick, what does assist invalid mean?
It's invalid, it's somebody who cannot move themselves or somebody who's like bedridden and needs help, maybe, moved from one bed to another bed, or from EMS might need some help taking that person and putting them back in a bed, coming home from a hospital or something like that.
Makes more sense. Thank
Chief, you did give us a zone area.
We did, Matt.
Yeah, like 171. I mean, to me, like if you know where it's from, it was. I really think this was put together fabulously. Like,
Well,
awesome.
I'd like to take credit for it, but honestly, it's a software that we're
It's great,
using that kind of
though.
spits these,
No, but that's great.
these graphs out.
Somebody has to push the button.
So what I did is I went ahead and printed out another one that's an incident type per zone and for date range. And what that does is it by zone, it'll tell you, and it does give you a little description of City of Dallas Northwest Central or City of Dallas North Central. And it breaks it down by what particular type of calls happened in those particular zones. So you guys can kind of review that as well. And at any time, if you have any questions, even if it's not tonight, feel free to reach out and we can, I can explain if you have you need a better explanation on something.
This was great. So if I'm correct, Jimos County 48 and Alice 113.
Yes.
And then when y'all do other counties, that's kind of like a interlocal type of.
Right, and I believe that was 7.
Which is 5. 5?
Five.
I counted them.
Okay.
So 48 in the county where it's just Jimos County, 48.
Right, and that's county that is our primary response area. So like Rancho Alegre, there's certain areas that are primary to us. There's no other fire department that responds to it. But there's also like Benbold, there's a San Diego's response zone, there's Agua Dulce response zone that's still in our county, but it's somebody else's response zone. We've also got Orange Grove to the north as well. I also have a report in here that's month by month. And there's a series of them. One of them is for 2017, so basically goes from January to now. It gives you the total incident counts. And then there's, for reference, there's last year's and the year before, so you can kind of see where we're at. And if you notice, in January, there was only 3 calls of 2017. That was a computer glitch. We're still trying to fix that. So we had more than that on that year. What I have noticed, though, is the trends, and that's kind of what I'm using these reports for, is to help me determine trends. And so far, we're right on par. We're not really getting less calls, and we're not really getting more calls. You'll see it go up and down a little bit, but I haven't seen anything significantly. And I'll be honest, we're trying our best. This past week was Fire Prevention Week, and our guys were out there. They did an excellent job. Again, with their characterization program, they had a whole new show this year, using comedy and using the clowns to grab the kids' attention. So we're trying, but we're also exploring the opportunities for some other programs that aren't just going to target the children, but maybe adults and our elderly population. So we have had some requests for some, they want the clowns to go do elderly shows at some of the elderly neighborhoods or buildings. So we're exploring that. We're trying to find ways that we can hit not just the children, but everybody in the community. So we've got some programs that we're, like I said, we're exploring, and we're hoping that we'll start seeing some of these numbers drop. I know on Chief Pettis' presentation, you want numbers to increase. We want our numbers to decrease.
Absolutely.
Complete opposite. So then I also have the mutual aid breakdown. Mutual aid, again, was received and given. We gave two times in this last quarter, and then 7 times we received aid from another department. And then the last report that I have in here is a report that was requested by Mr. Burke, and I wanted to go a little bit more into detail on this. So the last time we talked, you requested to know incident values and incident losses for a particular zone. And if you have the map and you want to know a specific zone, I can tell you that. The only issue that I have is that these numbers are not accurate, and I'm going to explain why. The numbers are dependent on us, on the person writing the report, putting that value in there. And so while we can determine, appraised values, like with appraisal district or an appraiser, we can get those numbers, but when it comes to the loss, it's really hard to gauge that. Unless somebody was to give us a bill and tell us this is how much it took me to fix the fire that happened, we're not really going to have accurate numbers. So it's going to be kind of subjected to the person writing the report. The other factor in there is value. We depend on what the person tells us. If somebody had a disaster, had a fire, and when we're getting the information from them to do our report, that's one of the questions that we do ask. But we're not going to check to see if somebody tells us, well, this couch was worth $300 or it was worth $1,000. There's really not a way of us telling or knowing the exact number for that. And sometimes things have sentimental value, and so sometimes the things that are lost in these fires really don't have a dollar figure attached to it. So I just wanted to clarify that with that report. And then there was another report that was requested by Councilman Crisp, and I apologize, I couldn't remember the exact report you were trying to get. So if you want to get with me after the meeting, I'm gotten a lot more familiar with the software, so I could probably pull it out. I just need to know a little bit more.
I know one of them that I'd asked for, and I'd still like to see it, is the cost of these false alarm, not false alarms, but like the crank calls or false alarms or whatever. Like, how much are we actually spending on those?
Right.
That dollar amount. And
yeah,
to be perfectly honest, if there was another one other than that one stuck in my head, I'm gonna have to go right back and watch the meeting with you. So we'll figure it out together though.
Well, I can definitely pull something up that would give us costs of what it costs to respond.
I'm just curious how much the city is out. I mean, obviously, we're not gonna not go,
right,
but I'm just curious of what that dollar amount is when some, and all 17 of them came from inside the city. So we had 17 false alarms and every one of them was inside the city. So I'm just curious of what that is when, whoever it is that's making that call decides to play a prank or do whatever they're doing and just waste our time and money.
Right, I can tell you, some of those calls are, so when, like, I'll give you a good example, is one of our nursing homes. It's in an older area of town where the water lines are a little older, and sometimes when enough people, and I don't know exactly what formula or what makes it work, but when the right amount of people flush their toilet and the water drops, their sprinkler system drops, which sets off their fire alarm system. And it's an older alarm system, so that's why it does that. So I can tell you some of those are that one. Other times it's just a malfunction on the smoke alarm that is causing the alarm to go off.
Too much dust in the place?
Sometimes we've seen that happen too.
That was a weird one. They showed up because I was sweeping when we were building, and there was just dust flying everywhere, and they showed up, and I'm like...
But it has to do with the type of an initiating device, the type of detector that it is. Some of them detect heat, some of them detect, they use little laser beams that go back and forth inside that little thing, and something interrupts that laser beam and sets the alarm off. So dust would set one of those off. So yeah, but we can definitely get
false alarms.
Yes.
Patrick, building fire, what are the causes? Can we identify the causes of a building fire?
We can. A lot of times it's very difficult. It's very common for them to, some of them are old, some of them are not old.
Okay.
But for instance, the last major one that we had was actually out on West 44. It was an industrial building, Bestway, I believe it was what the name of the business was called. The cause of that's still under investigation. anticipate that it's something electrical, but we really don't have enough evidence to say it was an electrical short that caused this, but I mean, it was all around the electrical panel. It was pretty obvious there was no accelerants poured. So really the way we do our investigations is through the process of elimination. So we look at what could have caused that fire, and then we start to basically disprove that, okay, this was not, somebody didn't intentionally set it because there was no accelerants poured. So we rule out the accelerants, we rule out lightning, we rule out electrical, we rule out, so that's basically how we investigate the fires, and most of the time we don't get to the actual cause. It's very rare that we do. Even when you know exactly what started, where it started. For a good example, we just had a fire at one of our schools. The dryer caught on fire. We know it was a dryer, but what caused it? Was it overloaded?
Right.
Was it the filters not cleaned? Was there surge? Those things that and we're still in the process of investigating those, but it's very difficult to determine those.
Gotcha. And I'm sorry, you may have said it, but on the mutual aid, what did the none account for?
The none. Where was it? Which one are you?
On page 183?
Oh, that's all the calls that were responded to that we didn't receive mutual aid or we didn't give mutual aid.
Gotcha.
So all the ones
So
we
those
handled
were
by
ours.
ourselves.
And mutual aid, just to be clear, is the other counties.
Correct. Well, other, not just other counties, but other agencies. So other response areas. So like Benville is a good example. They're right next door to us. There are times where they come to us and we go to them and help them. So any other agency, it could be close by or it could be as far away as Port Aransas.
So like Orange Grove Fire District.
Correct.
Because they have their own little fire districts. So
Right.
they,
Anytime we've gone somewhere else that there's another fire department, is considered mutual aid.
which helps
Yes.
our budget, right?
It does help our budget. Well, I don't want to say it'll help our budget. It does help us get control of the fires, depending on the type of fires. Usually, when we have these wildland calls or wildland fires where it's 1,000 acres, 1,000 plus acres, we really do depend on our neighbors to come help us with those types of fires. Any major, like for instance, the one out on West 44, that we used mutual aid from 2 other departments for that. So it might have been one call, but it got counted twice that we received.
Because it was
mutual aid.
2 different departments.
Right, because it was 2 different departments. So we don't call it often, but we try to utilize our neighbors as much as we can and not try to handle things ourselves, because we've also got to remember that, especially when we're out in the county, I mean, I'm not going to say that we're not going to go out in the county, we're not going to take care of those calls, but we've got to be a little bit more prudent because we have the city that we have to protect as well. So we can't leave our city unprotected to go take care of
I guess that's my
call.
point. Like the people that we share mutual aid with, Orange Grove Fire District, they can handle their own most of the time.
For the most part, yes.
But when we go into mutual aid, which are these tiny amounts, that's when we help them control.
Correct. So like here recently, maybe last week, and it's probably not on this report because it was in this next quarter, so you'll get it in your next quarterly report, but we had an 18-wheeler with 8,000 gallons of ethanol that rolled over. Orange Grove, they're a great department, they're very well trained, but they don't have as many resources as we have. At the same time, while we're probably the bigger department in our county, there are times that we can't handle certain incidents. So a good example is the hazmat incident we had over at, it was originated out in the county. Somebody picked up a abandoned container that got contaminated, and it was, we had to identify what type of chemical it was, and a lot of that equipment is really expensive equipment that we really just can't afford to, not can't afford to purchase, but maintain. And the frequency that we get those calls is not that often. We do get them, but it's not that often, so it's kind of hard to justify spending that kind of money on those types of equipment. So even we have to reach out to Corpus Christi, San Antonio, other departments that have specialized equipment. In that particular case that I was talking about with the hazmat incident where the guy picked up the event, we had to reach out to Corpus so they could come in with they gladly brought their trucks and all their guys over. And, well, we're actually, that incident helped us build a better relationship, so we're actually doing some training here at the end of this month, actually end of November, with Corpus Christi and their hazmat team, so that way we can work together better in the future.
That's great. That's great, Chief. Okay, council, any questions? Mr. Molina? Mr. Chris? Mr. Clark?
2 quick questions. How's everything going with Airbit?
Airbit, they're doing well. As far as I know, they're going through some changes. They had some administration changes here recently, so we're anticipating the new director to come on here in the next week or 2. They have reached out to me, we're anticipating a meeting coming up in the next week or two with the new supervisors.
Second question, you mentioned National Fire Prevention Week. You used to have a program about smoke detectors, especially for the elderly, I believe.
Yes.
Do you still have that? Or?
We still have that program. It needs to be revived. It needs some work. It's kind of been put on the back burner. We've worked on other things since that program was initiated. So right now, one of the things I'm looking for is a grant to help purchase some of we're out of the smoke alarm.
Okay.
We had worked a deal with Wayne Wright, I think it was Wayne Wright or Thomas J., one of the attorneys, and they'd given us a whole bunch of smoke alarms, and then that program eventually ran out. And so we're in the process of trying to find smoke alarms that we can give out, but we still have that program. If somebody needed help with a battery or help checking a smoke alarm or identifying where a smoke alarm would be needed, we still can go out and do that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Gasko? Great job, Chief.
All right, thank you.
You're doing a fabulous job. Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
Very thorough.
Great job on your budget.
Thank you.
All right. 16, the council may enter into closed executive session to discuss the following pursuant to: A, the city council may enter into closed or executive session to discuss the following pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074, Chief of Police review, deliberate, and discuss Chief of Police applications, alternatives, processes, and actions regarding interviewing, selection, employment, assignment, and establishing salary range. And B, Section 551.087, 1 Texas Government Code, Economic Development, to discuss or deliberate regarding commercial or financial information that the governmental body has received from a business prospect that the governmental body seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the territory of the governmental body, and with which the governmental body is conducting economic development negotiations. The time is now 8:03. Council will go into closed session.